All right, so we're continuing the Summer Report series today as we take a look at the defending Stanley Cup champions of 2019, the St. Louis Blues. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe, and let's play some Gloria for the St. Louis Blues. So the St. Louis Blues, a team that just came off winning the Stanley Cup, looking to defend their title in 2020. What do the St. Louis Blues have this season that they maybe didn't have last season? And how do they look heading into this season and looking at next summer as well? So, St. Louis Blues have a shade under $2 million of cap space, and they have some pretty big free agents coming in terms of next season. They have some unrestricted free agents this season, some pending guys, and this could be it for the St. Louis Blues. This could be their last big shot. I know we've said that before about other teams, and like Washington, the year they got Shattenkirk was the year. If they don't win it here, that's it. They ended up making, they won the Stanley Cup that next year without Shattenkirk. So let's take a look at this. So you have guys that left this offseason. It wasn't a terribly bad offseason. The most notable guy that they did lose this offseason, though, was Patrick Maroon, the hometown St. Louis native. He's down in Tampa Bay now, so that was a tough loss there for the Blues. Unfortunately, he did not stay with the team, but welcome to the salary cap world. So that's kind of what happened there. In terms of next season, they have Braden Shen and Robbie Fabry up front who are going to be up for new contracts. They're going to get paid some pretty decent contract, I would think. Robbie Fabry is probably good heading into this season. He's good for probably around $5-6 million. And they're kind of the same thing for Braden Shen, if not even more, because he is one of the top centers there in St. Louis. Then on the back end, you have Vince Dunn, Joel Edmondson, Jay Bouwmeester, and Captain Alex Pietrangelo. So Vince Dunn, he's going to make some pretty good money. Expect around 5-6 again for a guy like Vince Dunn. Maybe on a shorter term deal, he gets less. Joel Edmondson, kind of the same situation. He's more of a top 6 defenseman. He's a good third pairing defenseman. I wouldn't expect him to get paid too much. But I would expect him to be coming back. Jay Bouwmeester, I think, is off the books next season. I think he retires, he goes up into management with the Blues or some other team. Maybe he goes back to Calgary, something like that. But yeah, I think Bouwmeester is off. And Pietrangelo, the captain, I would think he comes back for the Blues, but it could be difficult. Maybe Pietrangelo doesn't end up coming back. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Maybe they sacrifice Dunn and Edmondson to keep Pietrangelo, or they sacrifice one of those two guys for Pietrangelo. Depends on what's going to happen. They could obviously make a trade here, things like that they could, make something work. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that. Taking a look at the lineup for the St. Louis Blues. So up front, you have Jaden Schwartz, Braden Shen, and Vladimir Tarasenko on the first line. That is a really underrated first line, I think. Obviously not this season. They did win the Stanley Cup. This is a really solid first line. Jaden Schwartz is a really good player when he's healthy and in the lineup. Schwartz is a real difference maker for the Blues, and he definitely helps out. Braden Shen, expect him to have a good season. He's going into a contract year. He's going to be looking to make bank next summer, so expect him to have a good season. And it won't be too difficult because he has Jaden Schwartz and Vlad Tarasenko on the wings. So Tarasenko, I'm calling it now. I think Tarasenko is going to have an unbelievable season this year. He may not have that motivation, but I feel like people are underrated on him. I think he's going to have an unbelievable year for the Blues this year. Second line, things drop off a little bit, and that Patrick Maroon loss kind of stands out here. You have Sammy Blais on the wing, Ryan O'Reilly down the middle, and David Perron on the other wing. So Perron is a really good player. He keeps coming back to St. Louis, whether they trade him or send him to Vegas. He continues to come back to St. Louis. Ryan O'Reilly, unbelievable pickup last season. He was kind of the guy that got them over the hump and got them to that Stanley Cup. So definitely, major pickup there, and he expect another good year from O'Reilly. Great leader, and really add some, stability down the middle for the Blues. Sammy Blais can also play center as well. He'll be playing on the wing, but he came into his own last season with the Blues. Really broke out onto the scene with the Blues, and he's playing in the top six hopefully. And he's got some good line mates. He'll probably put up some pretty good numbers with the Blues. The third line, things get a little bit weaker. You have Zach Sanford and Robert Thomas on the wings, and Tyler Bozak down the middle. So the Blues really solidified that defense heading into last season. Last summer was huge for the Blues. They brought in O'Reilly via trade, and they brought in Tyler Bozak on July 1st in the free agent market. So really, really good for the Blues. That center depth is really good. And those wingers, Sanford and Thomas, they're good third-line players. I would put Sanford as more of a fourth-line player, but he's still a pretty decent player. And I'm actually quite surprised he's still there, because we heard about the fight that broke out between him and another player last season during the winter months when the team was struggling. I guess those issues went away when the team started winning. Alexander Steen, Oscar Sundqvist on the wings on the fourth line, centered by Ivan Barbashev. Barbashev really hasn't come into the player that we maybe hoped he would become, but he's still going to be a pretty solid player for the Blues. Steen, he's getting older at this point. He's a good leader player. He has to take that role with Pat Maroon. He's not going to be putting up the goal numbers that he used to, but he's still a really reliable player. And playing with, a guy like Sundqvist who, moves people around. He's a people mover, and he's a tough guy to play against. Ivan Barbashev, like I said, he's a good center. Maybe not the potential that we were hoping he would become, but it's hard to move up in that lineup when you have Braden Shen, who was so good last season, Ryan O'Reilly, who's been known to be a good center, pretty much a Lady Byng candidate every year, and Tyler Bozak. So that's a really good center core, and it kind of leaves Barbashev, it kind of leaves him on that fourth line. There's really no improvement there for him right now. Looking at the defense, it's a little bit interesting. You got Carl Gunnarsson and Alex Pietrangelo on that first pair. I think they go hand in hand with each other. Pietrangelo will be moving the puck up to the forwards, and Gunnarsson's kind of going to be the guy on the back end that kind of stay-at-home defenseman. That's what I would expect from that top pair. Jay Bouwmeester and Colton Parayko on the second pair. Bouwmeester may end up going to that third pair, I would think. Maybe you see Vince Dunn move up to play with Parayko. I think that's what's going to end up happening by the end of the season. Parayko's really come into his own. Vince Dunn had a great season last year. I would expect that to continue. And then Robert Bertuzzo on the third pair. He's an older guy. He's a good leader in the room. I believe that's who the fight was between Bertuzzo and Sanford last year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So a pretty decent defense. Could be better, but they won a Stanley Cup, so it's pretty good. And then you have, the thing is, you don't even have, a guy like Joel Edmondson in here. So, they have pieces there, but it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening. Guys get signed and things like that. There's a lot of depth in St. Louis on the back end. Goaltending situation, same as last season. Jordan Binnington and Jake Allen. So Jake Allen really has struggled in St. Louis. He's had his moments, but for the most part, he's struggled in St. Louis. Hopefully he's able to get things going. Binnington signed his contract extension, so he'll be there. And, that's pretty much it for the Blues. Do I have them making the Stanley Cup playoffs? It's hard to predict a team that just won the Stanley Cup not making the playoffs the next season. It's happened before, but I don't have it happening this year. I think they get back into the playoffs. Not that that division is weak, but I don't think we are going to see a whole lot of movement. I think we could see teams like Dallas move down, possibly Chicago or Colorado moving up. But overall, I think St. Louis pretty much the same team that they had last year. Are they going to be able to stay as good as they did this season? Is Binnington going to be as good as he was this season? We're going to have to wait and see what happens. But I have the Blues making the playoffs. I have them finishing in the top 3 with ease in that Central Division. It's a tough division, but I think the Blues, if they're able to keep the momentum going from last season, I think they'll be just fine. So they have the same personnel. It's hard to bet against a team that just won the Stanley Cup. So thank you for watching. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe as well. And comment down below, where do you think the St. Louis Blues are going to finish in 2020? Thank you for watching, and have a good day.